Let's be totally real with each other. Nobody's looking. You're at home by yourself. You've seen Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. And you know you've watched the pod race scene multiple times. I'm not gonna lie, when Positive Jesse bought this car, I don't know what he was thinking. Do you guys remember Sebulba? Yeah. The dangerous Doug with the orange pod? This car sounds exactly like Sebulba's pod. Not only that, but it's got rust on the quarters. It's not very fast. I don't know if you can tell, but it's super windy here today. I just don't know what goes through his head. Oh! That's enough out of you.
Excuse me, I want to drive.
Welcome back to the channel, guys. Welcome back to Fergus Falls, Minnesota, and welcome to another video. If you haven't seen the original video for the 2.5 RS, highly suggest you go back and check it out. It was very dirty when I bought it. We kind of sorted all that out. I haven't done any of the maintenance on it that's needed. I do think it has been deferred for a long, long time. So today should be a pretty interesting episode. But the plan for this episode is to just take care of all that deferred maintenance. And maybe you have a 2.5 RS, maybe you don't. It doesn't matter. This is pretty much applicable for any car. Rear diffs, oil changes, transmission flushes, brake pads, stuff like that that we'll be doing in today's video. Air filter changes are relatively similar amongst all cars. So don't write it off just because you don't have a 2.5 RS, because you might learn something today.
This is a house of learned doctors.
He's not even going to talk about the wicked exhaust leak this thing has. Oh, and in case you're wondering, you remember from the last video, we are going to try and take care of the exhaust leak that this car has today. So let's get this thing back to the house, up in the air, and start working on it. Real quick before we get started, I just want to take a second to thank the sponsor of today's video, absolutely nobody. I forgot to mention this earlier, but everything I'm going to be using for the car today, from the fluids to the brake pads and all that good stuff, most of it was purchased on Amazon. So everything that I can, I will leave links for in the description below. If you wouldn't mind using those links, Amazon will pay me a nickel and a dime every time you do. It'll help support the channel. If you don't, that's fine, but just realize so it'd be nice if you guys would help support it. You're never gonna believe this. I had to go get 2 jack stands at my sister's, and I got stung in both feet by a bee. A bit of a bad start. The wheels were baked on there. This thing does have slotted rotors all around, which is kind of sick, but part of it being a Minnesota car is there's rust on it, so stuff can be kind of hard to get off. Only one casualty. I had to use a pry bar in back here. Did break the center cap there, so not that big of a deal. I'm out of breath. I think we'll start in the rear and move our way forward. The penetrant of choice for today is JB80. So I'm gonna hit the drain and fill plug on the diff with that. Let that soak quick. Off camera, I diagnosed our exhaust leak. It is where the manifolds go through the cat. I suppose it would be like a stock Y pipe, where they meet the stock catback. Right in there is where our leak is. I could put my hand, you know, right underneath it and just feel the exhaust coming out. So we'll probably just drop that, see how it sounds. If it sounds good, we'll leave it off. If not, we'll have to get a gasket. Might not be able to finish it in this episode. FYI, there is a stock hanger right in front of the cat, so if this does drop and sound okay, I think we'll be okay just running it straight off of there. Got it. Somebody will scold me in the comments for this, but gotta try it. Oop, that's not what I wanted to do yet. No, not yet. Where's my hand? Yeah, that stuff looks pretty sick. You can use a socket or a breaker bar to do that instead. You don't want to strip your threads on the diff. That'd be a bad day. Of course, I'm dealing with the wind today. 75 W90 is what the rear diff calls for on this. It's supposed to take 0.8 quarts, I think. This is a full quart, so it should be a little less than this. But obviously, you just fill it. Once you've got your drain plug back in, you just fill it till it starts coming out the top. And just so you know, the drain plug and the fill plug do differ on this car. The drain plug has this little magnetic end to collect metal on the end, which was really clean, by the way, so that's cool. And then the top one doesn't have that, the fill plug. This fluid does have limited slip additive. I don't know if you can see it at the bottom here, but in case any of you were getting ready to fire back at me. So, oh man, is that your mom? If there's any good mom jokes out there, drop them in the comments. There we are, coming out. That's it for the diff. All right, next we'll tackle the exhaust. Looks like we got 14mm bolts here with 12mm nuts on the back, so hopefully we can get to them with the impact, otherwise it's gonna be a long day. Ouch, she pops. Don't be a whore. I don't want to round that off. I probably just rounded it off. Yes, yeah, that'll probably cause a leak. Hit the like button if you want to hear it. I saw you hit the like button. Thanks for doing that. Not bad. Oh, it's perfect. Oh. Stick around to the end of the video for some flybys. The exhaust pulls down super easy. 1, 2, 3, 4 hangers was all it took. So okay, I'm gonna skip ahead to the brakes now because I'm gonna paint them today and I want to have time for it to dry. So up front there are 2, it looks like master cylinders with brake fluid in them. Not sure which one's which. I'll verify here and let you guys know in a minute. But if you've never done this before, it's super easy. Don't be intimidated by it. Basically, every caliper is going to have a bleeder valve on the back of it. In this case, it's an 8mm. You'll just put a hose on that. I'm going to put a plastic bottle down here in a second, and then you'll crack that. Keep fluid in the master cylinders, and then maybe have a friend or mom, dad, girlfriend, boyfriend, wife, whatever, pump the brake for you, and then just keep an eye until all the fluid comes out. You can start in the rear, you can start in the front. I don't think it really matters. Some people might argue it with you, but the goal is just to get all the dirty fluid out of it and keep the front topped off with the clean stuff. Fluid of choice for this is just some Prestone .3. Okay, so the brake fluid actually wasn't horrible. Here's a little sampling of it. It wasn't perfect, but it is now. And then the master cylinder for the brakes was obviously this one. I wonder if this isn't for the clutch maybe or something, but confirmed this is the clutch master cylinder. I just need to find the bleeder and I can bleed this as well. Okay, I did this one off camera, the clutch master cylinder or clutch slave cylinder or whatever. Fluid was pretty nasty, so got that out, got some fresh stuff in. Just in case you guys are doing this at home, pop the top. The bleeder is right here underneath the airbox. I don't know if you can see it there. Turn it to the left, clutch in, turn to the right, have somebody help you, pull the clutch out, do that back and forth until the fluid is clean, and then when you're all done, tighten the bleeder valve down, cap it, pull the clutch out, you should be good to go. Now to give this bad boy a little more flair, I'm going to paint the calipers on it. Not something I would do on a high-end car, but on something budget like this, I'm going to do it. I'm going to clean it first. I would probably normally use brake cleaner, but all we have here at the house is carbon choke. So just spray them all down, make sure they're getting clean. Paint of choice is this Rust-Oleum. I picked it because it's a paint and primer all in one. I don't get too hung up on the high temp stuff. Honestly, the calipers, they will see some heat, but the pads and the rotors are what see the main heat. So I've done it with, you know, cheap crummy paint before. It hasn't made any difference. So this is what I'm using. I went with the yellow. Obviously Subarus kind of have that yellow and blue heritage. And I'm a big fan of the Porsche carbon ceramic brakes, which are also this shade. It's kind of the shade I tried to match actually. So that's the color I'm using. Now this is definitely the poor man's way to do this, but I'm just using tape in a plastic bag. Plastic bag should go around the rotor and fit into the caliper between the brake pad, like so. And then I'll just use tape to kind of draw a line in the back. If you wanted to do this right, you should take off the 2 bolts in back on the main caliper, pop that out, pull out the brake pads, and then spray. But I'm going to be doing the brake pads later, and I'm just being lazy right now, so this is how I'm doing it. Okay, we'll move on to the tranny next while the caliper's dry. So one thing cool about the Subaru trannies, I guess, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, there's not a transfer case. It's like a center diff or something. It's built into the transmission here. So that's kind of cool. Axles coming out. Let's see, I think you can probably see right there, axles coming out the side of the tranny. So the drain plug, I believe, for the tranny is right here at the Y pipe of the manifolds. Mine's a 2000 RS, so it's a 21 millimeter. So I'll pop that off, see what the fluid looks like. Not so bad. No wind, no wind. Ugh. Little shavings on the end. Nothing too bad though. Fluid's pretty nasty. Somebody in the comments right now just dying to be like, make sure you replace the crush washer on the drain plug.
How about no?
Well, I'm not going to. And guess what? It's not going to leak and everything's going to be just fine. Correct torque spec is whatever you want. Looks like to get a little extra room, we'll probably have to remove a little bit of the air box here, which is fine. I got a new filter for it. No kidding. We'll do that next. That should give us a little bit more access to the dipstick hole down there, which is also the fill hole. 3.7 quarts is what goes into the tranny / front diff. They're one and the same on the manuals. I think the autos are different, but you don't have one of those anyway because you're a man. All right, let's see what we got here. I think it's perfect. Okay, done with the tranny. We'll slap the air box back in with a new K&N filter for the ram air-like setup on this bad boy. So satisfying. Remember guys, filter's still catching the dirty air through this open hole over here. Ram air! Okay, we'll do the power steering fluid next, which is ATF. Not sure if this is the right way to do it. Here's how I did it. There's 4 10mm bolts on the outside of the power steering reservoir. Pop those out, and there's a little filter in the middle there. Pop that out with it, and then I'm just gonna use, where is it? Like a turkey baster. Suck the old fluid out, which is absolutely nasty, and put it in here. Probably empty it a couple times. Fill it up, fire the car up, turn the wheel a few times, repeat the process, you know, 2 or 3 times until we got red fluid, then we'll be good. New fluid I'm using is just some Valvoline ATF. I think ATF 3 is what it calls for. This one's good for 3, Focus, 4, whatever. So it'll be linked in the description. And actually you probably don't have to unbolt these. I think if you can just pop the filter out the top, it'll make your life a lot easier. So let's run it a couple times. Here's after round 1. Well, it took 3 times filling it, but we're finally got some clean fluid in there. Don't forget to put your filter back in if you're doing it on your 2.5 RS. Oil's next, super easy on this car. It's all right up front, 17mm drain plug. I'm using a Fram oil filter, 3593A. I compared the Fram, the K&N, and the Mobile. The Fram was actually the biggest, so I like that because you can run just a tiny bit more oil in the system. So that's why I went with the Fram, no hate. For the OGs. Okay, so according to the internet, this thing takes 4.2 quarts. So I'm just using an ancient bottle of Valvoline 530 I had, and I'm just gonna check the oil level as I go, but 4.2 should be the right amount. Okay, calipers are kind of dry, so the brake pads are next. Don't be intimidated to do your own brake pads, guys. Two 12mm bolts on the back here. Slide the main caliper off. We'll pop these out, put these new Bosch quiet casts in, and it'll look pretty clean, I think. Gotta pop out the old retainers. New ones going in, all hot and flashy like. Hot pad one. Why don't you just go home? That is your home. Once you got your new retainers and pads in, like so, just take your main caliper, push it back on, and then drop in your two 12mm bolts, tighten them up. Doesn't have to be any specific torque setting, maybe 25-30 foot-pounds. I just go hand tight, do your own research. Unfortunately, the rears, I'm not gonna be able to do today. Amazon shipment said it was good to go, and then as soon as I ordered them, they're not coming until like September or something, so those are gonna have to wait, but it's the same process back there. There's a finished product for you. Okay, I'm not gonna do spark plugs, but if you guys wanted to do them, it's not that hard. This side is a little bit harder to get to down here. I know the light's not great. Between the windshield washer fluid and stuff, there's your two spark plugs on that side, and then your two plugs on this side. Those are things where if they're not broke, don't fix them in my opinion. But if you wanted to do it, that's that. I'm still gonna do the coolant. I've got coolant over here, but I'm losing light here pretty quick. I want you guys to hear the exhaust, plus I wanna play with it a little bit, see what it sounds like. And test out the brakes and just make sure that there's no leaks or anything with the fluids. No leaks. She's ready for a test.
The next day.
Look at you looking all pretty with your new Porsche carbon ceramic calipers. I started editing the video from yesterday last night and I realized this was getting too long, so I'm not going to do the coolant flush fill on here. Pretty easy. Petcock or whatever you call it thing is down on the passenger side. You just drain it down there. You'd probably want to remove this plastic panel. Drain it down there, pop the cap, fill it, probably run it a couple times, drain it a couple times. You'd be good to go. Just make sure you get all the air out of the system. Don't forget to run the heater while you're flushing it too. All right, guys, I think that will do it for today's video. I apologize in advance for the wind. I hope you enjoyed the maintenance of the 2.5 RS and the straight piping. I know I was really excited about the straight pipe at first. After driving it for a little bit, I do think it would be really cool if I sent 2.5 or 3-inch pipe all the way out the back to kind of kill some of the noise underneath. But this is a budget setup. I'm not going to do that. But just in case you're doing it to your 2.5 RS from 1999 or 2000, that's what I would do. One thing I will mention is I maybe shouldn't have done all this maintenance and done all this cleaning. I'm starting to like this car a little bit too much to the point where I don't want to beat on it. But that said, it's really slow. See, I told you it was slow. So I don't know how much fun it's going to be anyway. I'm not sure what I'm saying, but just don't be surprised if maybe I cut it loose, because I know you can still get a beat up WRX for around 6,000 to 7,000. I do not want to do an STI swap engine on this or anything like that. I do think it is relatively easy. I just don't want to go through the research. Who knows, maybe I will. But there's a chance I might cut this one loose and look for something that's turbocharged, just because this car is about as fast as the first car I ever owned. In any event, I appreciate you guys all so much for watching today's video. Stay tuned for more. Get lost. I'll catch you in the next one. You told them something the car sounds like Sebulba's pod? Come on, you gotta admit it sounded a little bit like Sebulba's pod before. Yeah, well now it sounds like a rocket ship going to Mars. Yeah, a rocket ship with rusty quarter panels going to Mars. I don't know what your problem is, man. You gotta kick that negative attitude. Why don't you kick the positive attitude? It's hard not to be positive when you got hair like this.
Mojo!